Hello everyone. In this video I want to show you how I made music from a tornado siren. And this particular siren that I'm going to use I got from archive.org from Ben Fransky, who posted it. I'm not sure if there's any copyright on it, but I will not be using it for commercial purposes, so this is just a demonstration. Now the first thing I'll be using once I drag the sample into my DAW is a spectrum analyzer by Voxengo, and that is free. So what I can do with that is analyze the frequencies and then pick out the pitches that I want to isolate. And basically that's what we're trying to do, is isolate certain pitches from the tornado siren. Because if we just take the entire sound by itself, there are so many pitches that it's not going to be very musical. And that's where my favorite tool for this comes in, dehummer. And I use RX by Isotope, RX7 dehum. Now there is a newer version, RX8, on sale for $19, or you can get it with a bigger bundle with a bunch of other tools. And the RX is included in that. I'm not getting paid for this. I'm just letting you know about the deals on that product if it's something you want. But basically what I'm doing with this is using it in the opposite way it was meant to be. I'm isolating the hum. As a dehummer, it's usually meant to take out lower frequencies like electronic devices that hum or things like that, just sounds that you don't want usually. But in this case what I want to do is use it to extract a certain pitch. And so if we play the sample and I pressed hold, and now I can see what the pitches are that are predominant. In this case it looks like E5 is the most predominant, and we also have B4. But for this purpose of this video I'll use the E5, and so I chose 660. I'm not sure if that's exactly the frequency of the E5, but for our purposes it's fine. And then for the filter cue, also for this, you want to turn it off adaptive mode. You want to have free selection of the bass frequency on, which is the fundamental. And the other beautiful thing about this plugin is that it automatically picks out all the harmonics of the fundamental, so you don't have to, if you didn't have it, you'd have to use an EQ and do this and go through and manually figure out the harmonics of the fundamental. But I'm not going to do that, so I'm removing that. And so we have the frequency picked out. Let's see how it sounds. And the more narrow we get, the less natural it's going to sound. And if you did that, you could pretty much do that with any sound and get it as narrow as possible. But it would probably, you wouldn't be able to distinguish it from any other sound, so you don't want to narrow it down too much. But the less narrow it is, the less musical it will be, because you're not going to have a specific pitch. You're going to have a lot of other pitches bleeding in that don't go with that particular bass or root note that you're deciding to extract. So I also like to use a deharsher a little bit, and in this case I'm using BX Refinement and they have sales every once in a while on this. There are better tools out there now to achieve this same thing. It basically just softens the sound a little bit. And then for the dehummer, you could just go to the bass note by itself, but then it's not going to sound as musical because you're gonna have the harmonics in a real pitch. So you're trying to make this into an instrument basically. And you also don't want the slope to be like this, because then you're going to get the harmonics to be too prevalent. So I like to turn the slope like this because that's going to be like a natural instrument. I know all instruments are different, but... And then I also like to use an EQ to even further lessen the harmonic sounds. These ones. Now it's pretty quiet at the moment, but what I'm going to do after I use a reverb as well, I'm going to use some kind of tool to get the volume to be higher. You can even just go to item properties on the file, increase it there. It's really still not loud enough, so I'll use this anyway. Oh, a little trick in Reaper, and I'll probably do another video on this alone because this is a really cool trick. But if you, on the item, you glue items within time selection right now, this entire file, or glue items, you could. The volume that I pushed it to, the 12 dB increase, is now the default. It's now the way the file is. So I could keep doing that, and I could keep increasing the volume, and then glue it, and then that becomes the new volume. So that's a way to... There's some other things you can do with that. There's some doors that are opened when you're able to do that. But anyway, that's just a little side note. So yeah, I have the Ultra Maximizer in this case, and I want to get the volume to be about to the 6 here, which would be about -6 dB. Okay, and that's it. And so I would mix that down, and I already did have them mixed down, but so you mix the files down, the sound that you've created here, and then I use Kontakt, and I'm sure there are free sample players out there somewhere, but I think Kontakt Player, I could be wrong, but I think you can create sample libraries in Kontakt Player, but they would work for 15 minutes, kind of like a demo if you don't have the full version, but I could be wrong about that. So I would take the samples that I created, from our demonstration here, drag them into the DAW, or into the sample player, that is. Then I want to make sure that the root note here in the mapping editor is at the E5. And for some reason, E5 is actually E4 in the piano roll here. So you got to get it to the E4 on here. And then when you play on your keyboard, it's the E5. Anyway, that's muted at the moment, so I gotta unmute that. see if we can get this out here. Okay. So I'm going to add some effects. Do some insert effects. Maybe add some saturation. Add a reverb. I love the plate reverb in Kontakt 6. And maybe I'll add a delay. Replica delay here. And let's see how it sounds. Let's make sure. I'm just going to put it to Omni on the MIDI channel. I don't know how loud it's coming through there, but I think the saturation and stuff added a lot of volume to it, so I also mixed down the raw wave file. You can see how those sound. So type 2 is a little more raw. This was a little more focused on the pitches, and then that one was just the sound by itself, nothing changed. And what we can actually do is go in here, right click and exchange sample, and I'll show you how it sounds with the raw sample. It can have its uses, but it's just not as musical. So it's like playing a soundscape, which is harder to make music out of when you're playing chords and stuff. It's better for, like, if you want to put it in the background for a beat or something. Yeah, that could be really cool for adding some darkness to a track or something. But yeah, it's not as musical. Let's try the type 1. Much softer, more soothing, I think. There's so many different things you could do. Like you could put a bunch of effects in here, like saturation effects and other things, delays, to change the sound up before you mix it down, and then put it in here, and then see how it sounds. But there are also effects in Kontakt, for instance. But again, I think there are some free sample players out there that you can put samples in and use them. Anyway, that's about it. That's how I make music from tornado sirens. And if you think of anything else that you want me to show how to use like this, let me know, and we'll see. Thanks for watching.